Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is G Cole, and welcome to Homegrown, where I get to share with you some good music while talking to some great people. If you haven't yet subscribed, please do, so we can keep you updated when new material is available. We will be posting new episodes bi-weekly. Also, check out the website Homegrown with G Cole to listen and for all things homegrown. We're also very interactive. Please follow me on Twitter, on Instagram, and on Facebook at MyG Cole.
Always a pleasure to have a conversation with somebody who I can get up and learn something from, and somebody that you guys can learn from. So we're talking to music, and this is the condensed version of the title right now. All right, it's just because we only got a couple hours, but we're talking about music industry professional, entertainment attorney, and of course, author. All right. Mr. Lloyd Stanbury. The title, the credentials stem deeper than that, but that's what we're getting you with today. How are you today, sir? Welcome. How's it going?
Yeah, I'm doing good, and happy to be here. It's been a long time coming. We've been trying to have this little reasoning.
Absolutely.
And, it's now happening, yeah?
Time, right? Nothing before it's time.
True.
Nothing before it's time. Nikki Fire, blessings. We got the book here, which I'm gonna get into in a minute. Got this book probably about a year ago, right? And I kind of treat it like almost like the other book by This Business of Reggae of Music, where I go through it almost like my encyclopedia. So I'm not going page through, but I feel like, okay, I need to check out what's going on here and so forth, and I catch up as I go. And I implore people to get the book, because we always complain, especially in the reggae industry, Jamaican music culture, that the knowledge is not there. There's always somebody that puts the work and the time and the effort into putting it together for us. But I think sometimes not only do we not want to read it, probably want somebody to read it to us. You know what I'm saying? So we're going to go through a lot of things, but going straight into it, I know not only do you work and reside in the industry of reggae music, but you're a fan of it too. You know what I mean? For all these years, loving reggae music. Quite a broad question, but from your vantage point, how are you feeling about the industry right now?
Well, I look at it from two perspectives, from the Jamaican scene as well as from the international scene. From the Jamaican scene, I think we have made some, progress in recent years.
Right.
We have had some encouraging new artists. We have to number among them Kofi, of course.
Right.
People like Chronics, young artists who have given us new reasons to love our music.
Right.
They're taking it to an international level.
Right.
In a short space of time, those two artists, Chronics came on the scene at about 17, 18, 19, and in a very short time, he was, the biggest artist coming out of Jamaica.
Right.
And he has launched himself internationally, and Kofi has now come at 19 and won Grammy as the first woman to win the Reggae Grammy.
Right.
So that is very encouraging for music
from
a domestic standpoint. And we have had some positive movements as well in terms of what the government of Jamaica has done. I've always been a critic of the government of Jamaica when it comes to our music and our culture.
Right.
But, when credit is due to someone, you give them credit.
Gotta.
And from the standpoint of supporting and promoting our brand, I think the government of Jamaica has done fairly well in recent years with their support of Reggae Month, for example, as well as the push to have reggae music of Jamaica inscribed by UNESCO as an intangible heritage product that should be preserved.
That's big.
Yeah,
that's big.
So we have to commend the government for those initiatives.
Right.
Other than that, I think we have, as I posted recently, I think our industry, our local industry, is really lagging behind what is happening in the international reggae music market.
Right.
So I would see that as a somewhat as a negative.
Right.
in that reggae music is just growing
Right.
globally, but Jamaica seems to be the gap between Jamaicans participating in reggae and the international community participating in reggae seems to be widening.
Wow.
In my view.
Right.
So that's how I see, the industry in a nutshell at this point in time.
And the post you're talking about, you said, has the global reggae music market outgrown the capabilities of Jamaica's domestic music industry infrastructure? A question like that, I really love the question. What I love about questions like those, especially when they're phrased by people like yourself, is really to sit back and watch the response. You know what I mean? And the response most of the time is what really gives you an indication of exactly what is happening.
Yeah.
The one thing I'll say about reggae music, I say it a lot on here and people don't like to hear it. We always try to figure out where the errors lie, right? For lack of a better word, who we blaming for all this stuff.
Yeah, true.
We cast it on artists.
Yeah.
We cast it on sometimes the government, deservedly so, right? We cast it on musicians, producers, a whole bunch of people. There's a little sect amongst it all that people shy away from casting any of the responsibility on. And I have no shame in doing so. The fans. The people who consider themselves reggae music fans. I think they've empowered themselves a lot as critics. But they don't do enough to support the music. So the person that will critique it down to the nuts and bolts have never bought it. Don't support it when they complain about the quality of the work, whether it's good or not. When you put your hard-earned effort and resources in it to create the quality product and you put it out there, you might get, all right, cool, sounds good, but you're not going to get the support that's going to push it to another level. You know what I mean? What's your viewpoint or how, what do you think about, and when I say the fans, not just the people consuming the music, but those people who are responding to these posts that you put out there?
I agree with you. The fans, the supporters of reggae, and whenever I say reggae, I see reggae as Jamaican reggae,
Right.
and I see reggae as the global reggae
Right.
music scene.
Right.
I think people who support and critique oftentimes make their comments without, informing themselves adequately as to what the issue is that they're commenting on.
Right.
Jamaican people just love to talk,
We used to say, talk or your mouth cut cross here.
Yeah, they love to talk, and oftentimes they talk without,
Right. It's ignorant
appropriate
speech.
information, and that doesn't help us at all. So I'd implore people to spend a little time to find out, what the real situation, get the facts,
Right.
and then make a contribution in terms of an opinion
Right.
that can help us to move forward,
Right.
rather than just shoot off your mouth without necessarily, digging deep into the
Right.
issue at hand. Yeah, and a lot of that happens.
Too much.
So I use social media to generate conversations. Sometimes I just ask a question and I don't comment.
I do notice that. I do notice that, but I love it.
I ask the question just to have the conversation
Right.
started by
Right.
people, And oftentimes someone might say something, and I say, should I respond to them? I say, no, someone else is going to respond to them. And it usually happens, But the purpose of my commentary in social media is to just generate a discussion and to, give people the opportunity to hear,
Right.
to sometimes see the level of ignorance that is out there. And at the same time also to get some information from persons who are in a position to provide
Right.
information based on real experiences.
Because that does happen. I do always notice that there's always some relevant information that gets immersed in there.
Yeah, but
you
there's
know?
a lot of
Yeah.
yes too,
Yeah.
And you have to just live with it. There was a time when I would, in social media, wonder or think twice about whether I should delete a particular
Right.
comment. And I have taken the position that I let every comment stay.
Right.
You know?
Everybody's got an opinion.
Yeah, everyone has an opinion.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's good for someone to express themselves and see where they went wrong.
Right.
You know,
Right.
if you take them out of the conversation, then you don't really do them any good.
Yeah.
So
They never learn.
They never learn.
Yeah.
So I just allow it, and I oftentimes just observe, and now and then I might say something.
Right. And how refreshing is it to hear somebody say, "Oh man, I didn't know that. Thanks for the information."
That is good. That is good, and it encourages you when you're participating in a discussion, and people acknowledge that they have learned something from it. That, because that's the purpose of it, really.
Right. I love that. And I love sitting back and reading those comments too, because I also get inspired when I see, because I've seen it several times where somebody actually learned something. Somebody who started out spewing just ignorance at the top.
Yeah.
At some point in time you get that enlightenment. That somebody comes in the chat room and enlightens them, because a lot of times it's almost like being the professor in the room. Sometimes you're just looked at as the professor in the room, but sometimes the information they get for their peers can be a lot more impactful than they're going to get from the professor in the room.
Exactly.
But keep doing it, because I appreciate it, and I know they do too. Changes. There's been a lot of changes in reggae music. I keep saying reggae music, I'm going to say Jamaican music.
Yeah.
All right. So covering the whole landscape. Changes for the better, changes for the worse. Over the past, let's say, 5-6 years, what are some changes you've observed that you think are good changes? Things that, because anytime we speak about music, and I say we as a populace, because we all feel entitled to reggae music because we're passionate, you know what I mean? But most times when people speak up, it's always the complaint. It's always the negative. They don't ever speak on what the positives are. What have you seen in reggae music in recent years that you say, you know what, we got to do better off?
Well, I think we have. Let me deal with the positives first. As I mentioned earlier, the young artists who are really working hard at putting together good productions, writing good songs. That is a positive. Outside of the creative inputs in our music, there's a lot more that goes into making the industry work. Another positive I see is that when I just started, I think I was probably the only attorney who focused on music business. There are a number of attorneys now in Jamaica who are, offering guidance and, support to the artists. That's another positive. Our music industry organizations are growing, getting better. That is also another positive. Now, I think on the negative side, I would say that we are not doing enough to adjust to the technological changes that are impacting music. I mean, music business is technology business these days. And I think we in Jamaica have not done enough to link the technology expertise that we have in Jamaica with the creative
And when we say
forces.
we, because I do notice that a lot of these young artists...
We meaning the persons within the Jamaican community who have technology skills.
Right.
And this is from the youngsters who know it, as well as the corporate entities. They're not doing enough,
Right.
to my mind, to merge with the music sector.
So we're not keeping up, let
keeping
alone to catch up.
We're not keeping up, and that is to my mind the biggest barrier to the development of the Jamaican music industry, because it's technology driven. The big companies in the music industry are technology companies. There are Google and Apple and Spotify, and they're all technology driven. And they are the leaders in the music industry today. And we have the capacity to do similar type things within Jamaica and the Caribbean with our technology entities. Our telecommunications entities. We're not doing enough. We can call them name. Digicel. And Flow. Yeah. They do some. Yeah. But they tend mostly to interface with music to sell their products.
So it's not about the music at all.
It's
like the music is just a vehicle to
sell their
somewhat help
products
selling
and
the
their
product.
services. Whereas they could do a lot more to utilize their facilities as a channel through which we can disseminate our music to the public, locally and globally. We're falling short there.
And for them, that wouldn't just be culturalism. It wouldn't just be patriotism. It would also be quite lucrative too.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Wow.
So I think we are very weak in that area.
Right. Well, hopefully they'll be able to do some. They'll be able to uplift the platforms that they're doing right now, because I sit back and I observe the hip hop artists, the R&B, the pop, country, even some of those genres that we're not most familiar with until Grammy times when I hear somebody winning an award for bluegrass. You know what I mean? Yeah. But when I do the research, they're all up on things.
Yes.
I oftentimes wonder if reggae music, and you can correct me on this if I'm wrong, reggae, from my knowledge, kind of blossomed out of the cry of the people. You know what I mean? It has that purist origin, somewhat. We're talking about love and peace, and while at the same time speaking about the happenings of the inner city. It's the radio, it's the newspaper, when certain people weren't able to have access to radio and the newspaper. And it would give you that message that at the time we'd say radio's controlled, the newspaper controlled. So certain news they don't want to put on there, but you could get it in reggae music.
Yes.
Coming from the people, for the people. That in itself almost comes across as the kumbaya mentality. It's not that commercial. So I always wonder if reggae music was ever set up from the get-go to be one of those most commercial genres. And I've had the conversations with people who said, no matter what it is, it seems like reggae will never be in the same plane or as a hip-hop or R&B music, because those music came out, though there was message in those music from the get-go, they kind of came out glorifying certain things. You know what I mean? Materialism and the commercial space, and we're coming from roots.
That is absolutely true. And I'm going to make reference to my book because, I asked myself a question when I was writing the book, whether the roadblocks that we face in reggae are self-imposed or whether they're coming out of what, we define as the Babylon system. Right. Which includes, the mentality of the corporate community. Right. And the establishment. Yeah. As you say, reggae music started and grew because of its position, the position that it took globally. In the 70s, for example, reggae music grew because of the stance that our artists took towards Africa. Right. That was one of the main reasons. And everybody was subscribing to the liberation of Africa and the anti-apartheid movement. Right. And reggae music was like the soundtrack for the liberation of several African countries. Right. And that brought a lot of fans to the music in that time. And it grew as a result of that. But the fact that reggae speaks a lot to struggle and discrimination and, injustice and racism and things of that nature, those within the same Babylon system that want to maintain that status quo, they will have a problem with reggae. And they do have a problem with reggae. Right. So as a result, there's a fight. Right. You can't get away from that. You can't get away from that. So that is a reality of the music because of how it was born and how it grew and, what it led to. Right. It produced a man like Bob Marley. Yeah. Whose words are as relevant today as they were 40 years ago, 50 years ago. Because he's speaking to the truth of what is affecting, minorities and people who are discriminated against around the world. Right. And there are people in this world who do not want to level the playing field. Right. And we have to accept that. And that's what our music represents. Yeah. So it's always going to get a fight. Yeah. Anything that presents a pushback against
oppression, so to speak. And oppression
Yeah.
takes on many forms.
Many forms,
Oppression
right.
could be someone that looks just like you,
Yeah.
that's just not wanting to hear the word out there, because a lot of time the word and the message contradicts what their word and message is.
Right.
You know, people trying to sell you something negative for a profit, and you try to speak against it. You're tapping into the profit margin right there.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So you're upsetting the apple cart for a lot of people. So I get you mentioned the start of reggae music and how it grew based on its relationship with Africa. The music, that is, not necessarily the people, because you know sometimes we say Africa, but we just say it because it sounds dope to say. You know what I mean? Should the ship pull up in the Otria's harbor and say, "Yo, Africa," would say, a lot of people would be like, "Really?"
That's so true.
But it sounds cool, you know. But the relationship between reggae and Rasta,
Yeah.
all right, that too in itself was a strong pivotal point. My observation, music, reggae, Rasta, and I'm not even going to go to the 70s. I was born in 78. You know what I mean? So I missed out on the 70s. I was too feeling it, but I wasn't understanding it. But I saw the effect of reggae and the Rastafarian movement. I saw a lot of hypocrisy. I saw where Rasta was used to sell the product because it looks that the two went together, right? But the same image that you used to sell it was an oppressed image at home, right? Has anything changed in terms of reggae and Rastafari and the relationship?
That's a very complex issue because if you look at what reggae and the Rastafari message in reggae preached and taught us, those are the things that are now hip.
Right.
You know, how you eat. Everybody wants to eat Italian. You know?
Mainstream now.
Mainstream.
Whole Foods.
Yeah, everybody wants to eat Italian. Everybody wants to be a
vegan.
Yeah.
Right.
No, marijuana is the biggest thing. Yeah.
A boat which we missed.
Right. And it's over 40 years that Peter Tosh was saying legalize it.
Right.
You know, Peter Tosh came before Dr. Sanjay Gupta, long before it.
We don't see that though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, so it's a complex issue because reggae music is responsible,
right,
for the awareness,
right,
about marijuana,
right,
more so than almost anything else. You know, because we have been singing it and saying it
right,
for decades. You
right,
know,
right.
The healing of the nation. Everybody is now in the lab,
right,
trying to heal the world
naturally
with CBD and
right,
what have you.
Yeah. Yep.
And everybody is trying to be vegan and
Right.
eating ital.
Wow.
You know, and everybody's also using the language of Rasta.
Right.
You know, everything is Irie and iPhone and I this and I that.
So true.
You know?
But the profit margin not coming to the restaurant at all.
Absolutely. So, I mean, it's a very powerful music.
Right.
It's more powerful than most of us
Right.
really realize, you know. So, yeah, it's reggae's relationship with Rastafari is a significant one. Not all of reggae is about Rasta.
Right.
Yeah, but the Rastafari component of reggae played a significant role in the popularization of reggae music globally. And as I just pointed out, you know, it has impacted our lifestyles.
Right.
You know, beyond
Right.
you know the levity of Rastafari. You know,
Right.
people are embracing a lot of the principles, the lifestyle,
Right.
the teachings of Rastafari without saying they're Rasta.
Right.
You know,
Going for
the way people eat,
Yeah.
and the fact that people are now focused on marijuana.
Yeah.
I'm just going to use those two examples.
Right.
You know, and what has happened in Africa. You know, I mean, going to Africa was an experience for me. You know, it's a place that I dreamt of visiting.
Right.
And I never visited Africa until, you know, my later years.
Right.
First time I went to Africa was in 2010. And I have been to maybe 8 African countries
Right.
since 2010.
Right.
Several of them more than once. You know, and I've learned a lot by just
Right.
visiting. To stay here and talk about Africa is one thing, but go there.
Yeah.
And when you reach there, and a man look at it and say, "Welcome home."
Wow.
It just changes you.
Wow.
That was the first word that was said to me when I set foot. In Africa. Welcome home.
Right.
And I heard that everywhere I went.
Welcome home.
Welcome home.
Wow. That in itself is very powerful. Because I feel like, again, it goes right back to reggae music. We've been in a place that you're born and raised in Jamaica. You may reside in the U.S. at some point in time. But between Jamaica and the U.S., you've probably never heard somebody say, except for the mat in front of the door, "Welcome home."
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? Yeah. And even if they said it, you don't feel it either.
You don't feel it. But it's a different feeling when you set foot in. That's not what I expected to hear.
Right.
So it kind of just it blew my mind,
Wow. We talk about reggae and Rasta. It's almost, we have to, reggae and ganja too. Because reggae has been and I'm going to say free marketing tool for ganja.
Absolutely.
For all these years.
Right?
So we used reggae music to market marijuana. And then, I won't say big pharma, but big somebody now pretty much decides, okay, thanks for the marketing.
Yeah.
All right. We're going to go ahead and now capitalize on this.
Yeah.
Because they don't have to do the marketing anymore. The marketing has been done.
Yeah.
All they have to do now is put the name on the building that we sell it here.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And personally, when I sit back and I observe that, I feel violated, because even at home, and it's not an American thing, it's not a European thing, I'm taking it back home. When a lot of people are persecuted and prosecuted for cultivating, selling, consuming marijuana, right? Which they weren't really viewing it as a drug at the time. It's an herb for them. And then now we still, as a nation, are behind the eight ball. We've lost billions of dollars where we could have capitalized from marijuana.
Yeah.
But now whatever capitalizing is going to be done is going to be done by somebody other than the people who endured that struggle.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? How do you feel about stuff like that?
Yeah, it is already happening, If you look at what is happening in the American reggae music market, for example, the American reggae festival market has grown more than the festival market anywhere else in the world.
Right.
And if you look at what happens at a lot of these American reggae festivals, not all of them, but a lot of them, the young people who are predominantly white kids who go to these festivals, a lot of them go there to smoke weed.
Right.
That's what attracts them to the festival. So what we're now finding, and people are wondering why it is that there's this rapid growth in this new audience for reggae in the USA. And what we're experiencing is something similar to what happened in the 70s.
Right.
Where reggae was connected to the African struggle.
Right.
Now reggae is connected to marijuana in the United States.
Right.
So it is causing a second explosion of reggae music. Because the young white kids, they just want to smoke some weed.
Right.
Yeah. And they go to the festivals.
Hear some good music while I'm smoking my weed.
Exactly. And that is now
right
creating the fuel for the growth of those festivals.
Right.
It's just something that I was just sitting down and thinking it through, And I remember interviewing a sound system operator in California. And I said, what is it about California? Why they have such a vibrant live reggae music scene? And his simple answer was, it's the weed. And I didn't understand what he was saying.
Right. But now that you think about it.
But no, I understand what he was saying.
Yeah.
And
how long ago was it that they had that conversation?
About 4 years ago.
Okay. So in the last night.
No. And he said, it's the weed.
Wow.
And it actually is.
Yeah.
And it's the weed from many angles. It has attracted the young people. And weed farmers in California were the persons who provided the economic base for the development of the festival market.
Right.
Let's just be real.
Yeah.
And that is why California has thrived.
Right.
As a reggae market. It's the biggest
marriage.
reggae market. Yeah.
The reggae marijuana marriage.
Yeah.
So
that's what he told me, That was
and
his
know that you
experience.
mentioned that.
Yeah, and if you look at it deeply, that's exactly what it is.
Yeah. They exist together.
Yeah.
It's a unit, it's a package.
Yeah.
It has always
been that way.
Yeah.
That's always been that way.
It's just that we suppressed
exactly.
and I feel like we've lost out in both ways, because suppressing
Absolutely.
the marijuana,
we
kind of, for lack of a better word, suppress the music too.
Yeah.
Because at the time where, people were against is what I'm going to say. They were also against the music speaking on it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So if they never want the marijuana in the streets, they definitely didn't want the songs about marijuana in the streets either.
Absolutely.
So there were, they banned them from radio and all them things. So it just amazes me how, as a people, as a culture, and when I say that, I'm talking about the powers that be, we've managed to suppress our own music, our own viability, commercially and just spiritually when it comes to the music, because I think that also contributed, because if there's an airway to play music and you're taking off one thing, there's room, so we got to fill it now with something. And I think that's where the room and the avenue was left open for certain type of music to then come and populate the airwaves. So whomever responsible for them things, we need to talk to them. You know what I mean? We need to talk to them. You've worked with artists over the years. Some more closely than others, right? I've always said, and this is based on having conversations with people who work in the reggae music business overseas, here in the US and in Europe and in the UK, that a lot of the struggles that we have right now, it's like a generational thing. Bob and his generation came out, did what they did. Then we had the generation after that, which I think kind of mucked it up from a professionalism standpoint. And then I'm so proud of the youth right now, the protege generation, the Chronics and them, right? Because when I speak to them and I ask, not the artist himself, but people in and around the artist, camp, what is it that makes them successful? And the music is the last thing they refer to. They mention the fact that people find it easier to work with them. And the word that comes back is that professionalism. How badly have we hurt this industry by being unprofessional over the past decade or two?
Very badly. We have not assembled, we have a tendency not to, the artists that is, in the past, and even still today, have a tendency to surround themselves with people who don't really have a contribution to make to their development.
Right.
They don't have the right team around them. They have hangers on.
Right.
Yeah. So those artists, I can't think of a Jamaican artist that has been successful without a manager.
Right.
I can't think of one.
Right.
If you just go down the list, from Bob Marley
all the way up,
they've all had people around them who support what they're doing and have a role to play.
Right.
And that is why they achieve, and that is the foundation of your professionalism. You need to have a manager, you need to have someone who's going to provide the legal guidance that you need to do your packaging and present you the right way.
Right.
Look at how these younger artists, and it has filtered through. We have done a good job in terms of packaging and presenting ourselves. But you need a team to do that. The artist,
a qualified
the artist's
team.
job is to focus on writing the good songs, going into the studio and making sure that it is properly recorded,
right,
and preparing themselves to be on stage. That's their main role. But you need a lot more,
right,
to deliver, and to excel.
Right.
And you have to assemble the right team to do that. And they have to understand basic things like punctuality and, how to interact with the media.
Right.
And how to relate to your fans, And that is what is called professionalism in the music industry. You have to really understand that you're in a business that requires attention to documentation. You know, contracts need to be prepared and signed in writing.
Right.
You know, because music business is one of those businesses where you're dealing with rights. You know, when you make a record, there are several persons who have an interest in the record.
Right.
You know, so if you don't put in place the right arrangements among these various participants in the recording that you're doing, it's a recipe for, you know, disaster.
Yeah.
You know, so that's what is required, you know, in terms of your professionalism around your career to ensure that you will make progress outside of the domestic market.
Right.
You know, 'cause the business internationally is a business.
Right.
You know, you have to approach it professionally to compete within the international space. And that's another reason why we are lagging behind somewhat, because we don't have enough competent managers and support personnel around the reggae artists.
Wow. That being said, as an attorney in the business, how much of your time is spent on helping artists to do it properly versus trying to save artists who have already started along the wrong road and doing it improperly?
I have done various things along the way in the music business. I've done management of artists, which I have more or less withdrawn myself from because it's what's most needed, but it's also the most difficult.
Right. right.
You know,
it's a babysitting gig.
It's a babysitting thing. So I would say that, you know, as an attorney working with artists, I find that the majority of the artists, you know, they tend to want to do things themselves, you know, and they tend not to want to engage and pay professionals, you know, to provide the services that they need.
Right.
You know, and that holds them back, you know, that prevents them from advancing.
Right.
You know, management is very important. You know, having legal advice is very important because, as I said before, you know, it's just about doing contracts and protecting the rights that you have. You know, ensuring that your copyrights are, you know, properly managed. You know, you create something and you own the copyrights in it, but if you don't do the right thing, you know, you don't earn from that copyright that you own from your creations. You know?
Wow. It, you know, and amazingly, these things come up a lot in terms of copyrights and you know, ownership, intellectual property, stuff like that. And you know, a perfect example lately is the whole Florgan situation with him. He did his copyrights apparently properly on that one, so somebody used his material, right? And now he's able to go out there and seek, you know, recompense for his work. Now, what I wonder, and the conversations I've had on my end of it, is that does this open up the Pandora's box now for all? Because protecting our work is one thing, violating other people's work is another. You know what I'm saying? So now does that open the box now for all the people who we have went ahead and used their material without, you know, procuring the proper permission and clearances?
Well, music was always people always made music from listening to other people's music. And people always copied other people's music, re-recorded other people's music, and that is something that is encouraged. You know, when someone writes a good song, they want other people to sing their song.
Right.
There's nothing wrong with re-recording somebody's work.
Right.
Yeah, but there are certain things that you should do. You shouldn't re-record someone else's work and
don't give them credit
and pretend that it is yours. Yeah, there's nothing wrong with re-recording, but don't pretend that it is yours.
Right.
Credit the person so that the person can, you know, do what is required of them to earn from your cover recording or your use of a part of their work.
Right.
Yeah. But there's nothing wrong with re-recording.
Just do it properly.
Just do it properly. You know, the people in Jamaica's music from Studio One days, most of the songs, maybe not most, but a lot of the songs that we heard coming out of Studio One, you know, from Alton Ellis and, you know, a whole host of people, Ken Booth, they were not original compositions.
Right.
Yeah. So
Right.
we built our music from singing over other people's music. Yeah. So when I hear people saying things like, why people singing over Jamaican music, there's nothing wrong with that.
Right.
Because that's how we built our music.
Right.
We
Right.
built our music in Studio One days by singing over American songs.
Right.
Yeah. So we shouldn't take offense
When somebody does.
to someone singing over a Jamaican song today.
Right.
Not at all.
Right.
What we should take offense to is someone doing it without crediting.
Right.
Yeah, and we did some of that
Right.
in the early days, and some people paid dearly.
It's
There are
out of
people, there are
business.
people who paid dearly from doing that. So what needs to happen is you hear somebody else's song, you're influenced by it, you take a part of it, you credit the person so that the person can,
Right.
you know, earn from your cover version of their song.
Right. So it's not what you do, is how you do it. And,
Yeah.
and there's nothing like doing it properly.
And you need to respect people's rights. That's
Yeah.
basically what it boils down to. And what you're gonna find, what we have found, you know, in our situation is that a lot of the songs that were done by us that were cover versions of American songs in 60s and 70s, no action was taken. You know, because the songs probably never generated
Right.
any income to make it worth going to hire a lawyer to go and sue a little man in Jamaica.
Right.
You know, but the few songs
That didn't
went big.
came for it.
Right. Right. You know, they were pursued legally, and you know we know the stories.
So don't think that they don't see it. It's just not worth
It's not worth it.
It's like the
not worth
IRS.
it. It's not worth it to go pursue someone who
Right.
re-records a song that sells 500 copies.
Right.
But if you're going to sell hundreds of thousands and millions,
We'll see you.
yes, and they're going to pursue you.
I love it. Now, I'm gonna drop a song or two for the masses right now. We'll come back. We'll get into Reggae Roadblocks because I think it's a beautiful body. It's a brilliant book. There's a lot of information in there, and what I love about Reggae Roadblocks is it's not just a book about reggae music in my eyes. You know what I mean? So we're gonna touch on, ladies and gentlemen, we're chopping it up right now with Mr. Lloyd Stanbury. We're talking music. We're talking the culture. EK, Dwight, everybody. I appreciate y'all so very, very, very much. I'm showing you the picture of the book. All right. Make sure you go ahead and get it. There's a lot of information in here, especially sometimes the music books are out there. There's knowledge out there, but this is a little different because it comes from our perspective. Yeah. You know what I mean? It's like music, but reggae music comes from our perspective. So, ladies and gentlemen, check this one out. It is called Fu Manchu, one of my faves right now.
Play by the king, I said the love is all I bring. Play them style, I have to keep it rocking and swing. Hey, you know, rocking and swing. Time to knock his drop with Bitty McLean. Watch out me forward and come in upon the music machine as I would say. It makes no sense at all to say where you used to work. It makes no sense at all to say how much you used to earn.
Lloyd is available on Amazon.
To say what you used to do.
That's where I got mine. Amazon's got everything.
Is the face of Fu Manchu. This is the face of
Hey Hope, how are you? Wild Lodge up Jorena, Matthew Caden. Coconut Creek's in the building. Coral Springs is here. Palm Beach is locked in. I appreciate you so much. Hey Suzette. Hey, Lucia.
What you
Large up Kezai.
true, true. This is the face of fool and you. This is the face
What, go on, Tanya Mullins. Lots of my Canadian Massive right now. Appreciate y'all so much. Thankful for this gift of technology, making the world so much smaller so we can chill. Have a convo. Fu Manchu, ladies and gentlemen, it is the Lee Thompson Orchestra, Bitty McLean's a big tune, one of my favorite joints right now. I guess this is I have to procure an attorney for that one. That might be a legal question. Somebody says, what rights does an artist have if he wrote the song, performed the song, got no credit on the album for the song, but someone else now owns the copyright? That one they gone.
What songwriters, artists should do in the studio, they should insist when they're interacting, working with a producer, that information is recorded in the studio as to who the participants are, in the song that is being recorded.
Right.
That's where it has to start. That they should fill out a simple form.
Right.
That they can create themselves that says who is the writer of the song, who are the musicians who are playing in the session, who the performer is, who the producer is.
Right.
And that information should follow the song wherever it goes. Because once you lose track of that information, then you have to go through and jump through hoops.
So many.
To prove your case, to make your claim.
Right.
So you have to start at the point at which the song is being recorded.
Right.
If you have written a song and someone records it and you're not credited, you're gonna have to find a way to prove
Right. That you are the writer.
if you never did anything when you wrote it, anything like documented the fact that you wrote the song. There are various ways that people do it. In the United States, you have the opportunity to register your work in the Library of Congress. But there are some countries where there is no system of registration.
Right.
The internationally accepted principle of copyright law is that you create something, you own it. Yeah. But if you don't take the necessary steps to demonstrate your ownership,
Tough to prove.
You're in a difficult spot. So you have to do the necessary things, and there are various things that you can do. You can become a member of a collection society where, you submit the work.
That's the BMIs and the ASCAPs and
ASCAPs and so on. You submit the work to them where you claim that this is a work that you have written. You can register in the case of Library of Congress in the United States.
Right.
People have this thing that they call the poor man copyright, where you
Mail it to yourself.
write the lyrics of the song and you mail it to yourself. There are various ways that you can do things to demonstrate that you are claiming ownership to the song that you have written.
Right.
But if you do nothing,
Right.
it just makes it more difficult for you to prove your case. Not
Doesn't
that
mean you
can't-
don't own it.
It doesn't mean
It's
you
just
don't own
tough
it.
to-
It's just more difficult for you to prove
Yeah.
your case.
Right.
And in the United States, if you're gonna file in court, you have to have a registration,
Right.
which is Flower Gun's copyright wasn't registered until 2017, from what I understand.
Right.
Right? Even though that
Right.
song was written from way back.
Right.
But it was registered. We run things in 2017, I think, because they realized that they intended to file, or they to file a lawsuit.
Right.
So they registered it, which was I guess he was advised
Right.
by his
Right.
attorneys to
Better
do
late
that
than never.
first, right? Register it, and then we can make the claim.
Wow. And that's a thing. I when I speak to artists, because a lot of time I sit down and I speak to artists, and I always say, personally, this is just me. I don't create in studios. So I will never go into a studio to go create any body of work. Not only because of, the obvious reasons, but the fact is there are other people in the studio. So next thing you know, somebody is plagiarism too. And it doesn't mean somebody's literally writing it down. But next thing you know, you don't do anything with it. And a year down the road, you hear that same thing because somebody else was there and was privy to it and liked it. But I prefer to give me the instrumental, give me the track. I write my song at home, copyright my stuff, and then take it to the studio. I have many songs that are copyrighted that are not recorded, but I copyrighted them right then and there. And I always advise people, it's a lot of people create in the studio because a better creating environment for them. But just in terms of protecting your work, it's not so much about that producer that's going to take your work and do whatever they want to do with it. There's eyes and ears everywhere. So sometimes I've seen situations where people are having legal battles with not the producer, but just Joe Blow, who happened to have been in the studio at that point in time. You know what I mean? So that's what I always encourage artists to do. One question, and I see it here too, that a lot of people have a challenge with, is people who are given publishing rights to music created versus work for hire. I think they have a grasp on the whole concept of the publishing, but what's the simplest way to define work for hire when it comes to creating music?
Well, what work for hire is a concept where, as the words say, you work for hire. So you create something which is owned by someone else. So you typically would have an agreement with, say, a producer or a studio or a label, where in that agreement it is saying that you are creating this work. You're probably, or you should be, paid for creating this work, but you're creating it for G Cole Recording Company. Yeah. So once you sign that document saying that this is a work for hire,
Right.
it means that the work that you have created is owned by G Cole Recording Company.
Right. I was
That's
just
what the
hired
work
to
that
play on
you were
it.
just, you were hired to create the work
Right.
for someone else.
Right.
And
But
that
they
person
maintain the ownership.
the person that you have created it for ends up owning it, even though it's your creation. Typically, that is something that has to be in writing, because
Right.
your creative work can't pass from you to another person unless it's in writing.
Right.
That is a stipulation of copyright laws almost everywhere.
Right.
That
Right.
you create something, you own it. For the ownership to pass from you to someone else,
Yeah,
it
sign
has
it
to be
over.
it has to be under signature in a written document.
And that being said, from my understanding, from what you're saying, we may be talking to or about the artist right now, who's saying, "Oh, well, you know what? We didn't concrete up this." But to me, the work for hire precautions need to be taken more by the producer, whomever is going to be the owner of that. So, lack of a better word, if I have it and I pay somebody to do it, I need to insist upon getting that, because later on, based on the level of success this record achieves, that person may come back and say, "Nope, it wasn't work for hire."
Yeah, but a lot of times, producers and artists confuse the role of a musician, for example, who is in a recording session. When a producer hires a musician to come to a studio, he's hiring the person to come and play.
Right.
You're not hiring the person to come and create.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And a lot of people don't make the distinction between those two things. So a musician can come, like Leroy Sibbles, goes to Studio One, and he's paid by Coxon to play bass,
Right.
but he created the bass line. Right?
Right.
So
right.
his arrangement is to play,
Right.
and he's paid to play.
Right. But he
He
created.
was
that
not
bass
paid
line.
to create. Right?
Right,
So
right,
you need to have a separate agreement that says,
right,
the work for hire agreement that
Right.
says, this creation of yours belongs to me.
right,
Without that,
right.
even though the producer paid the musician,
Yeah,
he's only paying the musician to play.
right.
You're not
So the
paying-
musician has entitlement there.
Yes.
To his.
Absolutely.
Wow.
And that is where a lot of the confusion happens in music.
Right.
People go there and they play and they get paid to play, and sometimes the producers assume that they own the creation of that musician, and it's not so.
So ignorance doesn't only come from the part of the artist here; it's coming from the part of the producer. I think
As
a lot of times we get caught up in the whole the harder they come situation. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Where it's always the producers and the man with the resource that's capitalizing and exploiting the talent. But a lot of times it can go the other way too.
Yeah.
Where in a case like this, the musician was paid for a situation, but guess what? It became something, and we don't have a written agreement. Say, hey,
Yeah.
that's my creation.
Yeah, absolutely. And that happens a lot.
Wow. Wow.
So we have to be very clear on what it is, what the rights are that people have when a recording is made, you know, and what exactly is a musician doing when he comes to the studio.
Right.
If you want to own his copyright, then you need to give him a piece of paper to sign
Right.
that says that has the words "work for hire" in it.
Right. If not,
If not, you're just paying him to play.
right. Right. Right.
You're not paying him to create.
Which normally the situation in that is you're normally playing him to replicate something that's already created.
Or yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Producers, get your game, get your thing in order, all right? Because it's business, and I think that's where a lot of us, especially not just Jamaicans but reggae musicians at large, have failed a lot. Is realizing that it is a business.
Yeah,
You know?
absolutely. And you need to understand, you know, the implications of what you're doing, you know.
Right. Reggae roadblock, right? Reggae roadblocks. It's like I mentioned, it's a lot of info. It's a lot of info that I feel is not just beneficial to the reggae industry, the artists, the employees, the affiliates of reggae music, but just people who want to know how the wheels of the Jamaican music industry and the industry at large
Turned or never turned.
turned or never turned. I like that. Or never turned, you know? And even you highlight Brand Jamaica itself. You know what I mean? Because all of this comes back down to Brand Jamaica. And, you know, what I would love to know is, of course, we read the acknowledgements and so forth, and where you credit. But what made you say I need to put this book together?
It's my experience, you know, working in the music industry for years, and what I observed, you know, I just figured that there were a lot of roadblocks, you know, that prevented our music from a business standpoint.
Right.
You know, from rising to the level that it should. And I'm going to give you an example of why I say that. I mean, Bob Marley came and he made his music and he rose to the highest possible level.
Right.
Right? Bob Marley has left us from 1981.
Right.
And there's so many other music forms that have come since reggae. And in the international music business space have surpassed reggae.
Right.
Like reggaeton and hip hop.
Right.
Yeah, that were all born out of the Jamaican
Right.
music experience.
Right.
Yeah. So what is it that prevented us?
From
Yeah,
soaring like they did.
what is it that prevented us? And so I just looked at what I experienced over the years, working with artists, working with managers, working with promoters of events, working with the media, and, you know, interacting with the Jamaican government
Right.
and the Jamaican corporate sector. And I just tried to put in a book what I experienced over that period of time
Right.
that seemed to be roadblocks
Right. Right.
that
right.
prevented us from taking our music business-wise. But it's strictly from a business point of view. Because the music, as a man named Lucky Dube said, nothing can stop reggae.
Right.
You understand?
Right.
So the music, you can't stop it. but the business has not progressed.
Right.
The business of reggae, from a Jamaican perspective, has not progressed to where it should have.
Right.
You know, we don't have the biggest reggae festivals in the world.
And that in itself is blasphemy.
Being run by Jamaicans.
Yeah. Even at home.
Yeah. The biggest songs on YouTube that are dancehall, like Ed Sheeran, is a dancehall song.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying?
Rihanna sometimes.
Rihanna. Despacito.
Right.
Is a dancehall thing that them call reggaeton.
Right.
So I looked at the top, a year or 2 years ago, the top 10 most viewed YouTube songs ever. 4 of them was dancehall.
Ever.
Yeah. So those are the kind of things that I'm talking about.
What don't reflect it, but we don't see the residuals.
And there were no Jamaicans participating in any of those songs.
Wow.
Right?
Wow.
So those are the things I'm looking at. What is it that has prevented Jamaican people who created this thing from rising to that level in the international space from a business standpoint?
Right.
What are the various things that have been roadblocks in our way?
And that's what you're outlining in this book.
And that's what I try to question in the book.
Right.
You know, some of it to me is government related.
Right.
Some of it is cultural. Some of it is coming out of the fact that a significant portion of what we were singing about was Rasta business and Africa business, you know, which some people don't want to hear about that.
Yeah.
And push.
It was niche.
Right. A lot of it had to do with our own unprofessionalism. You know, a lot of it also had to do with cultural differences, you know, about how Jamaicans see homosexuality. You know, that has been a significant pushback to our music. You know, so I tried to address in the book, in various chapters, these various things that we have encountered. Some are self-inflicted, and some are coming from how we interact with the wider global community, right? And they have all, to my mind, presented roadblocks to the advancement of our music from a business standpoint, not from how much people love it.
Right.
They can't stop reggae music.
Big old self lucky.
We can't stop. We can't stop it. Because people want it because of how it makes you feel and also what it is saying. You cannot stop reggae music from flowing right. It's like water. It's gonna just flow.
Right.
Yeah. But we can have instances and situations where, from a business standpoint, the persons who are primarily responsible for generating this thing called reggae have not advanced as much as other people who have embraced reggae. Yes, it's really a roadblock to primarily Jamaicans who are involved in reggae, because Ed Sheeran never meet up on any roadblock.
Right. Rihanna never get the roadblock.
No, neither did Rihanna.
Yeah.
Or Justin Bieber.
Yeah.
Or Drake.
They were on the turnpike.
They never. Nothing stood in their way.
Right.
When they did some dancehall songs.
Right.
You know, so we have to look at all of those issues before we can fix the problem.
So we've seen you spent a lot of years in this music from your younger years, right? You saw the pioneers, right? Some of who became legends. We're gonna even talk about the difference in the two, because some people but vex with me say it, but I don't think every pioneer is a legend. You're just a pioneer. You open the door, but you didn't create and accomplish what would be deemed legendary status. Yeah. All right, so you've seen some of them. You've been there when they were doing what they do, and we saw the residual effect of that. And right now we see some youths coming back and trying to rectify the ills of their predecessors, so to speak. When you were there, because we always talk about hindsight being 20/20, Monday morning quarterbacking. When you were there in the midst of it all, back then in the heyday of reggae and the Bobs and the D Browns and all them people, were you observing and looking around and saying, "Oh, we're messing up," from then, or was it later on in life that you looked at it and say, "You know what, we royally messed up"?
And I think one of the things that has happened to our music is in the early days, people were doing it more for the fun of making the music and what it did to us. You know, it provided us with a means of entertaining ourselves and enjoying what we were doing. I don't think we realized then the impact that it would have on the world. You know, so it has reggae music has outgrown Jamaica.
Right.
Basically, that is what has happened. And then with the new technology, it's exposing the music even faster and wider than it was then. So we are now seeing, wow, what is this that we created?
Right.
That is all over the world. Right. Everybody has embraced it and everybody's putting their own spin on it. And there are people who are not from Jamaica who, from them born, all them listen to is reggae.
Right.
You know,
Right.
And it's a part of them.
Right.
Particularly people who, in Africa, you can't tell an African that reggae don't belong to Africa.
Right. Right.
And they have a very legitimate argument.
Yeah.
Because our early music is coming out of our experience as Africans transplanted to the Caribbean.
The Kuminas and
The Nyabingi.
yeah.
You know, Nyabingi is coming out of East Africa.
Right.
You know, and Rastaman embraced Nyabingi and all kinds of other forms of African drumming
Right.
and chanting.
Right.
And that was the early form of our music. You know,
So
so
they
you
do
can't,
have
you can't tell an African that reggae is not their music.
Yeah.
It's a part of them.
Right.
You know, so the Africans playing reggae music with the same feeling that we have.
Right.
You know, and them come with that thing now that them call it Afrobeats.
Done the place.
You know,
Yeah.
you can see what it is doing.
Yeah.
And it's real.
Yeah. And that one, I don't think it's a fad. That one is that's going to be around.
Yeah.
Afrobeats. Now, do you, you know, it's a abysmal question to ask. It's almost like mortality when it comes to human beings. But have we lost it? Or do you think that, you know, with the proper approach? Because here's something I'll say I'm very proud of. I like the fact that we're now in an era of trained and educated musicians. Give thanks to Edna for pumping them out like a factory nowadays. You know, Alpha is doing that, not as much as in heyday, but we're getting trained, educated musicians. What I would love to see a little bit more is trained, educated everything else.
Yes.
PR, management, you know what I mean, and so forth. But that being said, have we lost it?
I don't know I wouldn't say we have lost it. Reggae music and all forms of Jamaican music, to me, it's like a gift, you know, to the world. You know, everybody likes it. Everybody loves our music, and everybody, you know, a lot of people have embraced our music, and that's good. Yes, I don't see it as being that or losing the music. I see us as losing our place in the music business. You know, but yeah, music is for everybody's enjoyment. You know, and if someone in Japan just wants to play reggae, let them play reggae.
Right.
You know, if some youths in California want to play reggae or Hawaii, let them play reggae. You know, we should feel good to know that we have given the world this gift. You know, what we have lost is our space in the business.
Right.
You know, but people always connect reggae to Jamaica.
Is reggae music more lucrative than brand Jamaica is? And I wonder about it primarily from this standpoint. I oftentimes wonder if we have what I would call a non-commercial culture, so to speak. And the reason why I wonder that is, for example, you go pick your wife up right now and you drive out the house. and you go to the French restaurant, it's almost expected that that bill come into $100. You know what I mean? If it's decent or more. The Italian restaurant, a good one. You know what I mean? But if you pull up at a Jamaican restaurant and then get the baddest steamed fish you ever get in your life, right? And so forth, and you get a bill that looks similar to that, even as a Jamaican, as a Caribbean national, it's almost like, nah, they're overcharging me. So I'm always wondering, right now, we have beaches in Jamaica that will rival beaches in Hawaii. Yes, from Miami to Jamaica is closer than Miami to Hawaii. But if you're in the middle of the country where it's the same distance back and forth, the ticket to Jamaica versus the ticket to Hawaii, you're going to say, why you charge me so much for Jamaica? So I've always wondered if culturally, over the years, we have devalued brand Jamaica. And as a result, reggae soars as it connects to the West Coast, the South Pacific, Europe, and so forth. But the lack of commercialism and financial viability is when it's attached to brand Jamaica.
Yeah, I think we have always undervalued our own, you know, and that is why a lot of what you are saying is happening. In that inside of Jamaica, we don't value our own, the things that makes us who we are.
Right.
You know, we don't put a lot of value on those things. People from outside put more value on the things that make us who we are. You know, and that runs across the board.
Right.
You know, as to reggae versus brand Jamaica, Jamaica is a weird place. It's just
Easiest way to put it.
It's a place that it's hard to explain,
Yeah.
and goes beyond just music. It's not just about the music. There are just so many things that Jamaica and Jamaicans have excelled at. You know what I mean? It's got Usain Bolt. I mean, it's just crazy. You know? That we do the things that we do. You know, I don't know.
With the limited resources we've got.
Limited resources, as well as the lack of adequate support.
Right.
We still excel in a lot of ways. It's not just with the music, but everybody wants a jerk something.
Yeah. Anywhere in the world. You know,
anywhere in the world.
It's amazing you say that. I've traveled. I tell people this all the time. I've seen more countries than I've seen parishes in Jamaica, right? I have never been to a country in the world and not seen the fake Jamaican restaurant, the knockoff. Somebody selling a Bob Marley t-shirt,
or jerk
something, and that's the potency and the prehensibility of our culture. But it seems like everybody knows how to capitalize on it, except us.
Yeah. So I think we have fallen short in terms of first valuing what we are and what we have created, and taking the necessary steps to encourage and protect and promote what we are and what we have created.
Right.
You know, and that is the explanation for what you have experienced and what we have all experienced.
Right.
We are the ones who have to put value on our stuff first and foremost. We should define what reggae is.
Right.
You know, and don't allow people to call it raga.
Right.
I don't know what raga is.
Right. I know reggae.
And I hear some people talking about something that they are now calling modern reggae. I don't know what that is either. And they're calling it modern reggae because it is fusing some rock or alternative rock in it.
Right.
Bob Marley been doing that
For years.
and Third World been doing that.
Steel
and
Pulse been doing that.
Peter Tosh played
Yeah.
Buckingham Palace, and Johnny
Yeah.
B. Good
Yeah.
and Concrete Jungle.
Yeah.
With some of the wickedest rock guitar solos
Yeah.
40 years ago. So there's no modern reggae.
You're doing what we've always done.
What we have always done.
You know, we mentioned government. I had a conversation with somebody before. When I say the government they have, and they continue to some degree. Yes, they've done more in recent years, but fail us in terms of reggae. Somebody said to me, well, and I agree, do any other country rely on their government to push the music? My response to that was that, well, no other country relies on the music to brand their country like we do. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Hip hop, R&B, pop, it's not the major export. It's not the major production of the United States. So I would see why the government would care less about that's private sector.
Yeah.
Jamaica and reggae music. Reggae is Jamaica. Reggae is our export. Reggae is what brings people in and have people look in. So so from my vantage point, that is why I would expect the government to play an intricate role or at least more of a role.
Absolutely. And even without that being the case, there are a lot of countries that place emphasis on cultural development in terms of providing support. You know, even though they might not necessarily have cultural products that stand out as much, relatively speaking,
Right.
as our music stands out.
And you speak of UNESCO.
Yeah, there are countries who, through their government and through the private sector, place a lot of emphasis on funding of culture. You know, and relatively speaking, from a music standpoint, their music is not as valuable
As is reggae.
to their country as
Right.
reggae is to
us.
Jamaica.
Yeah.
So even if so there are two reasons why we should be getting more support from the corporate sector and the government inside of Jamaica to our music, because our music is so important.
Right.
To who we are.
Yes.
That we should have a ministry just for the music alone.
Just for the music.
Just
not,
for the music
not
alone.
music and culture. Just
just
music.
for the music alone. There should be a whole department of
Right.
government in Jamaica that's dedicated to music.
Right. And I think that had it been that way, things would be a lot different.
Absolutely. If the right persons,
That too.
if the right persons are brought in by the government and the private sector
Right.
to develop the policy, because industry development is a partnership between government and private sector. When I keep saying government, a lot of people say, leave out the government. I don't know of any country where the government don't play a role in the development of an industry that they
Right.
consider to be important.
Right.
If the industry is important to the country, the government has a responsibility.
Yeah, it becomes a responsibility of the government.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
to ensure that industry is properly developed.
Especially in a case like Jamaica, where that industry is probably the most
Absolutely.
viable.
We have failed
Yeah.
in that regard
Big time.
in Jamaica, big time. Not just the government, but the corporate sector and the persons within the industry itself.
Right.
And I use the word industry with quotations.
I understand. A very contentious relationship over the course of the past however many years has been between the Grammys and Jamaican people. Yeah. I always say that we have a rocky romance with the Grammys, right? To the point where people say, and I think this is nonsense, but people say all the time, I hear people say, I'm not watching Grammys, I'm not really business with the Grammys, but every January.
That's what I'm saying.
That's what I'm saying. But every January after the Grammy result, the same people are complaining. And my thing is that if you weren't paying attention, you would know what's going on
Exactly.
to complain. Now, we had our stab at even our own stuff, the jammies and different things that we as a people don't support, right? But the Grammys, 9 times out of 10, we disagree with even the nominees. This year is one of the few years that I don't think people disagreed with the nominees, primarily because I think it's because no matter who brought it home, it was one of us. In the past couple of years, there was always a possibility that it gone. So I think that's one of the reasons why people, had a better reaction to the nominees this time. Now, when the winner was announced, and then there was a little bit of a rumble, for a bunch of reasons. How do you view the Grammys and reggae music?
Well, I think the Grammys, in principle, it's a good thing. It is good to have a means by which people are recognized for what they do
Right.
in a given period of time, which is what the Grammys is trying to do. Recognize I'm putting it in my own words, creative excellence in a particular year. And it's good to have that, you know. Like any organization, you know, you're going to have issues. And as we are now hearing, the CEO of the academy was suspended because she makes some sounds about what she observed within the voting process.
Right.
And, you know, we and other people have always been, you know, suspicious of the process.
Right.
And apparently rightly so, because the CEO is now saying she saw some hanky-panky taking place.
Right.
So the concerns that people have had about the voting process are, you know, legitimate and real concerns.
Right.
We love to talk, and as I said in the beginning of this discussion, we love to talk sometimes about things that we don't study.
Right.
Because the Grammy is not about who sold the most records.
Or even the best music.
Or who was most popular.
Right.
That's not what the criteria is. It is supposed to be something about creative excellence.
But is that really the case, though?
I'm just telling you what it is supposed to be according
to
the rules
according
and
to the bylaws,
guidelines and the bylaws.
Right.
That's what it is supposed to be.
Right.
But a lot of times the conversations that happen after the Grammys, the reggae Grammys, is, you know, this one was more popular than that one, and this one was on the chart and sold more. That is not what the criteria is.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And it is not what the public thinks is number one, is gonna win. The Grammys is what the voting members of the Academy think.
Right.
In terms of creative excellence.
Right.
And what needs to happen is that more persons from the reggae community need to get involved in the
process
academy, so that they can vote, so that they can more closely observe and see if hanky-panky really going on, right? Because you can't stay on the outside and say there is hanky-panky.
Right.
You know,
I just feel it in my gut.
You just feel it. Yeah, you might be right.
Yeah.
But it is better to be on the inside where you're a part of the process. You're a member of the academy. You have a vote.
Right.
You know, and you can lobby.
Right.
You know, you can change an institution more easily by getting on the inside of the institution. Right. And that's what I would encourage, you know, people in the reggae community to do.
Right.
To become members of the academy.
Right.
More of them become members of the academy and work their way to the place where...
And functioning members.
Right. Where they can have a vote in terms of how the whole thing is structured. And if there is, like any organization, if there is something that's not being done right, the membership should, as I said, be functioning members and vote to get the right persons on the board.
Right.
I might sound somewhat idealistic.
Right.
Because in the real world that we live, we know money changes things. You can have a set of bylaws.
Right.
And people with, well, I don't want to go into the politics of the United States.
Affluence and influence.
You know, but we know what money does.
Right.
And greed does.
Yeah.
You can have systems, you can have a constitution. That means nothing because greed and money override what a constitution is supposed to do. And the same thing applies to any organization like NARAS or whatever. Yeah. So it might be a little idealistic, but it's the only way.
Right.
You know, if you set up an organization and it has rules and bylaws and what have you, then the membership should try to ensure that these are followed.
Right.
Yeah, and if you're not a member, you don't have a say.
Right. Let your voice be heard if you have a voice. When it came, you know, when Grammy nominees poured in, right? I asked two questions because I always feel like whenever somebody says, "Who do you think is going to win?" the answer you're getting is really who they want to win, right? So I gave it twofold, and I said, "Hey, I'm asked two questions. I'm asking you who you think is going to win, and I'm asking who you're rooting for, who you want to win, right?" I thought Coffee was going to win. I was rooting for Third World. Did the outcome surprise you?
No, not at all. Not at all. Because Coffee was the only artist nominated in the reggae category that is on a major label. And being on a major label means that there are so many persons within that organization.
Visibility.
Alone, not just visibility. There are so many persons within the organization that she's signed to that are members of the academy. That, I mean, how does she lose?
It was her battle. It was
You know
her
what I'm
race to
saying?
lose.
Yeah, how does she lose when she's signed to
Yeah.
a label that probably has several hundred persons
Right.
within that organization
Right.
that are members of the academy?
Right.
Yeah, so she had a
A leg up.
yeah.
Yeah.
You know, but like you and like a lot of people, they were rooting for Third World
Right.
because
Best body of music.
yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
if you're talking about the work, like we said, if we're talking about musical excellence, not to knock Coffee's thing, because I think her EP's dope, but from a musical excellence standpoint, if we're putting it on a scale and just weighing it, the Third World album, to me, outweighed everything else. But if you're being practical, like you said,
Yeah.
then all roads lead to, just based on the fact that you know, and don't get it twisted. It's not a knock against anybody, because we
No,
always try to,
not at all, not
you
at
know.
all. Because Kofi's EP, which I struggled for a while to understand how an EP qualified as an album, but then I discovered that the definition of an album within Naros is, I think, 5 songs qualify.
5 or 15 minutes, something like that.
Yeah. So it's the number of songs and the duration of the recording.
But there was a time when they didn't even let that in. I personally, my personal thought on it is that, like you said, the Grammys are supposed to be the organization that acknowledges musical excellence. And there were a couple of years where the best in music was an EP. You know what I'm saying? So because it started a couple of years ago with her. She won for an EP. J Boog's submission was an EP. So I think that's kind of what it was.
Yeah.
Why they had those. But regardless, you know, it's like I said, there are certain things that are gonna one always make two. All right, so it's gonna go down that road.
But they have defined an album.
Right.
That, and the definition of an album for the Academy would include what we're calling an EP, as long as it has a certain number of songs, which I think is 5, and as long as the EP,
Play length.
the play length of the EP is over a certain number of minutes.
Right.
It qualifies.
So she qualified.
So she qualified.
Right.
Yeah, so we can put that aside.
Put that aside.
Yeah, all of those who are saying it's an EP, it's not an album. The definition of an album, Coffee qualified.
She qualified for it.
She qualified.
So yeah, all this qualifying, traits that we're looking for, she met it.
Yeah.
And some. In the introduction of your book, right? Chris Blackwell says the golden age of Jamaican music is past because of the amount of excellent writing, performing, musicianship, and production that existed then. That caused a wave that is still traveling around the world. I'm quoting him. What were your thoughts when he verbalized that?
It's hard to me. It's hard to make that kind of statement, because who knows what's going to happen next year.
And I think there's some excellent songwriting going on now.
Or the next 5 years. But I think the point he was making is not something that is confined to reggae. Kind of music that was coming out in the United States in the 70s. I don't hear that music now.
Right.
So it's not just reggae.
Right.
There was something
Music as a
about
whole.
there was something about the 70s. That music, I don't know what was in the atmosphere or in the water
right,
in the 70s, but the music that was made
Right.
across the board in that period of time is
Never
of
been-
a very, very high standard.
Yeah.
But to say that it will never be replicated or duplicated or repeated is a stretch.
It's an overly bold statement.
Yeah, up to this point in time,
We could say.
you might say that period was the best. But to say it's gone means that it will never come back, that's kind of putting it a little bit far.
Yeah. I chalk it up to the climate because, and I say this to people all the time. It's what was going on because people write about what's going on, right? We do have imaginations, we create, we embellish, but for the most part, we're writing about what's going on. That there was a time, even as we dial it back to reggae music, the content Bob Marley was putting out was relevant to the era, to the time, and to what was going on. If Bob was born in 1982, he wouldn't have sung One Love. You know what I'm saying? He probably would not say, Kaya wouldn't have about, Exodus wouldn't have about, just based on the climate right now. So when I saw that statement, that was what came to me in terms of, the climate's different. So should the climate shift, which we're getting there right now, to something similar, then we'll have that kind of information. Because right now, when I observe the writing that's going on right now from the chronicles of the industry and the proteges of the industry and stuff like that,
and the coffees
of the industry, and I could call a lot more names, the Jesse Royals, a whole bunch of people. It does rival. Then I think what the major difference, and again, humbly my opinion, is that there's a lot more offset right now, because back then there were a whole lot less artists and musicians doing it, so there was a whole lot less BS to balance out the scale. Most people were on that trajectory, on that plane, where right now, as many people who are putting out topics of relevant content is as
you probably have more rubbish,
more crap that's going on out there. So I think that's what it is. And also back in the introduction, Copeland Forbes said the support needed from government is weak. He said that he's been to the Jamaica government many a times with plans and ideas and about what's going on the international scene, and they looked at him as though he was speaking a different language. And that's what you've also seen.
And the point you just made, in the 70s, a lot of the musicians then were excellent musicians. Alpha produced a lot of them, and others came from being self-taught,
right,
and from learning inside of the Studio One school as well. But today, what do we have?
Right,
we have Edna Manley College, right?
College of YouTube,
and Edna Manley College has put out dozens of brilliant musicians over the last 10, 15 years. So to say that the golden age of Jamaican music is past is a stretch. Because these youths that are graduating were proficient and trained as musicians. Let us wait.
You're putting a ceiling on
let us wait and see what they're going to do over the next few years. And we're already seeing signs of it,
There's a lot of brilliance out there. And I also think that there was an era where certain lyrical content, what we would deem culture, was almost being shunned too. I feel like even from a piece and effect standpoint, when we had that little era, I think it was maybe late 90s or maybe early 2000s coming up, the Sizzla Kalonji era, where there were half a dozen Sizzlers. You know what I mean? Everybody sound like Sizzla now, but it had that effect too. And there was an ear listening for that. And I think when that crop of artists kind of swung the pendulum to the other side, then it had a dire effect on that too. But I think we're coming back, and ears are more now open to hear this kind of music. So from my standpoint, I think that has a significant effect on it. And I'm hoping that they continue to do that, because people can be persuaded a lot when you're doing solid, good, proper, positive works and it's not being rewarded, and you see the negative being rewarded, then
it can be discouraging.
It can be highly discouraging.
That lady saw tell you her story. So she's gone like in a full circle. Because I've heard her say, that when she just entered the music industry, she never wanted to do what she did.
Right.
But she did it.
And it worked.
And then there came a point in time when she said, I can't do that anymore.
Right.
So what is happening in the environment definitely can influence the direction that you take, Garnet still started out as Bimbo, the DJ, because he probably figured that was the way to go.
Right.
And then he just found his real place. So you can be influenced, your direction can be influenced by the environment that you're in.
Right. and I said this to you earlier before, where I feel like there's a huge difference. There's a little bit of a line in the sand between the upcomers and what I call the OGs. You know what I mean? The vets, where the veterans are always complaining that the youngsters don't give them the props and the respect. When truth be told, I feel like they do give it to those who demand and have earned it, but there are a lot who have not. But they're requiring that respect just based on tenure. And that's why I solidly feel like there's a difference between a legend and a pioneer. There are many people right now who consider themselves legendary, but truth be told, you're pioneers. You were you were there at the beginning of the process, and you may have helped to open a door, but you didn't contribute that much to warrant being considered a legend. And a lot of people, oppose that. What do you think about something like that? Would you agree, disagree?
Yeah, I agree with you. There's a difference between being a pioneer in a particular field or area and, earning legendary, or the word that is bestowed on people so easily in Jamaica, icon. Every other person is an icon of our music. Those words should be reserved for people who have actually made significant impact
on the culture.
Yeah. But we use them loosely. Yeah, there's a difference between someone who pioneered an initiative or an effort or a movement and someone who has gained legendary or iconic status.
Right.
And we should, identify the difference.
Right.
But to the point about getting props and, elders in music or whatever field, being recognized by younger people, that's another part of our struggle in Jamaica. The disconnect between younger persons in the field of music and older persons in the field of music, both creative as well as support providers to the music industry. We need to bridge that gap. The older heads need to respect the youths, and just allow them, but the youths also need to respect the elders, and know that there are a lot of things that they know that the youths don't know,
and they could benefit so much from that.
So there needs to be a bridge between the younger people in the industry and those who were before. You can't keep them separate and apart. Older heads say, boy, youth them, them know why you're nothing. And the youth them say, boy, you're old boy, you're elder or elderly. And your time is gone. No. There's a lot that both can learn from each other. And we need to find a way to bridge the gap between the two. That will help us as well to move the thing forward.
I love it. I got a bunch of people here who've been logged in from day one, just listening again all across the globe, tuning in right now. So thank you all so much, and thanks so much to you. There are a couple of questions I have that I think they're rather instrumental to life as a whole, to mankind as a whole. And just the answers to these questions are pivotal in how we're going to move on. So I'm gonna ask you a couple of questions. You won't have even time to really think about them. It's just some real instrumental life and deathers right here. Cake or pudding?
As to where we, you mean as to where we are?
Which do you prefer? Are you a cake or pudding guy?
Oh, I would consider myself a pudding person.
Pudding?
Yeah.
So what's up or sweets up?
So what's up?
Yeah. Reggae or dancehall?
That's a hard one to answer because sometimes it's hard to distinguish between the two.
True.
True. And sometimes I prefer not to have them compete.
Right.
Because they're so intertwined. That some for example, sometimes you will hear a song that is both reggae and dancehall.
Right.
And you have a lot of artists who are both dancehall and reggae.
Right.
So I like them. I love them both.
Them both.
Yeah, I do.
You know, amazingly enough, you said that. I said to somebody the other day, there are many songs from the 90s and early 2000s that were considered dancehall that in today's space would be considered reggae.
Exactly. You know, so we have to be careful. My preference is not to pitch dancehall against reggae. That is my preference because sometimes you can't tell the difference.
Right.
There are so many songs that are both reggae and dancehall at the same time.
Right.
A lot of songs are like, and a lot of artists are both reggae and dancehall artists.
I love that. Football or cricket?
Well, I have to choose cricket as it's the only sport that I actually, I think I played well.
So cricket all day.
Cricket, yeah.
Beach or river?
I would probably say neither.
Not a water person.
Not a water person. I mean, I always say anytime I see a fish walking down the street, anytime I see a fish walking down the street, then I will choose beach or river.
But until then. Saturday or Sunday?
Probably Saturday.
Saturday?
Yeah.
That's me. All day. Sunday's Monday Eve. To me, that is. So it always has a little bit of a little sour taste, you know? I want to thank you so much for passing through it. Truth be told, I've learned so much, but you're somebody I probably need to speak to once a month. A chapter a day. You know what I mean? But I thank you so much because so many people, I always tell the people, you know, it's cool when the artists come to the building. You know what I mean? You see your favorite artist come in or whatever the case may be. But definitely there are times when y'all need to dial in because we talk about information as though it's something we don't have. But I feel like we're lacking in knowledge seekers too, because a lot of times, you know, when the information is there, people, you know, it's not entertainment in their eyes. Yeah. So, you know, but for those people who are, so many people are logged on here near and far, so they benefited a lot. So did I. So I definitely want to say thank you so much. This book, Reggae Roadblocks. Tell the masses, because somebody did ask. I got mine from Amazon, but tell them where they can get the book.
Well, you can get it from Amazon. I think you can also get it from Barnes and Noble online, and you can also get it from, if you want autographed copy, you can get it from my website, which is lloydstanbury.com. You know, so it is available at my website. It's available at Amazon. It's available Barnes and Noble online as well.
So all the digital
there are a few bookstores in Jamaica
that are carrying physical copies,
like Sangsters and Kingston bookstores.
Nice. I like the book because the description I'm going to give it, it's a whole book. You know what I mean? It's not, a lot of times somebody say, yeah, I put out this book and it's got some information. It's kind of pamphlet. You know what I mean? Or a little brochure. It's a whole book, and there's an array, there's a plethora of information in here. And I treat it, like I say, not just, I'm trying to do the cover to cover, but I treat it almost like my encyclopedia. You know, where I go in and I go straight to a passage, a place in there, find the information and I want. But I think it's an easy read. I like the book because it tells me a lot of what I've been thinking about, questions that I've asked myself, and I didn't know where else to get it, because most books that you go in, all you get are theories. You know, you don't get people's experiences. So that's what I love about this book. This is your experience and your knowledge. And worst case scenario, we can always hit you up on Facebook and say, page 106, Lloyd. What do you mean by this? You know what I mean? But so the website is the best place to connect. Social media?
I'm on Facebook as Lloyd Stanbury, and on Twitter as Stanbury Lloyd, and on Instagram as Lloyd Stanbury. I can be reached through those platforms.
And those people who need professional help they can reach out to you in terms of music.
Absolutely.
Now, before actually, also, talk to me a little bit about. Let me close this one down. Talk to me a little bit about Majesty Media.
Well, Majesty Media is an entity that was formed 3 years ago. Between myself, it's a partnership between myself and Sister Irie, who is a radio DJ, photographer, and writer based in Austin, Texas. And over the past 3 years, we have been providing publicity services to a number of artists. But apart from providing publicity support, we are developing our own little bit of content, from video snippets that we capture by going to music festivals all over the world, interviews that are conducted, articles that are written by us. So we are developing a library of content as well as providing publicity services to artists, and now we're going to be providing publicity services to events as well. We operate. We have an official website for Majesty Media. We have a YouTube channel for Majesty Media. We have a SoundCloud channel for Majesty Media. We're on Facebook. We are on Instagram. So through those platforms, we generate content, for persons who are interested in arts and culture. Basically, so that's what Majesty Media is about. It's just 3 years old, but we have developed a network of persons around the globe who are interested in arts and culture issues related to Jamaica, the Caribbean, Africa.
Gotcha.
That's what Majesty Media is about.
And for those people who need information on it, more information on how they can network and participate in it.
Just like you find Lloyd Stanbury by putting Lloyd Stanbury, you find Majesty Media by putting Majesty Media into Facebook, or Majesty Media Global at Instagram, and MajestyMedia.net is the website. And Majesty Media on YouTube, Majesty Media at SoundCloud. And in any one of those channels, you will see what Majesty Media has been doing.
Right. Check it out, ladies and gentlemen. Trust me when I say the information is there. And Mark, blessings, Christine, Alicia, everybody across the globe listening in right about now. I want to thank you all so much for spending your time with me this evening. Hopefully one of these days we could get Mr. Stanbury back in here, because there's a whole bunch of other things that we could get. We could go through. Knowledge is power, and there's nothing I enjoy more than gaining some of that knowledge. So,
when I update the book, which I intend to do,
Mr. The Reggae Roadblocks Part 2.
Yeah, it's going to be updated. I think it is deficient in terms of capturing what has happened in the Latin American reggae scene. We touched on it a little bit, but the Latin American reggae scene is mind blowing.
Something to behold now. Yeah. So there's going to be a 2.0.
Yeah, we're going to update it to expand on that aspect of what's happening in reggae.
Any timeline?
It's hard to put a timeline on it. I've been thinking about it. I've started to jot some notes down. Hopefully within the next year or two, I can, finish what I'm doing and have a new edition of Reggae Roadblocks out.
Love it. Well, in the meantime, grab this one, because again, it's a lot of valuable information. A lot of valuable information. So go ahead and add it to your collection. And again, go on the website and get your autographed copy, as I will get mine copied, autographed a little differently. All right. Thank you so much, sir.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Pleasure is mine. Ladies and gentlemen, I appreciate y'all so much. There you have it. Thank you so much for tuning in. It has been a pleasure. Remember, subscribe to the podcast wherever you are. It is available on iTunes, Spotify, TuneIn, Stitcher, Google Play, iHeartRadio, Radio.com.
Be safe, be kind, and be good to each other. My name is G Cole, and this is Homegrown.